Alright, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing some Standard and memeing. We're going to play some Treasure Swarm today, and this deck is, well, I assume it's a bit of a meme. What are we supposed to be doing with this deck? Well, you might notice Masswood Nexus. This should say all it needs to say about the power level of this deck. It's a 4-mana artifact that says creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creatures you control and creatures you own that aren't on the battlefield. So everything in this case is a dwarf, which means when Magda sees a dwarf become tapped, it creates a treasure token. So in the case of something like Jaspera Sentinel, which can tap a creature for mana, we can generate the 1 mana off Jaspera Sentinel, plus the Magda generating a treasure off Jaspera Sentinel tapping, plus the treasure off of, you know, the other dwarf that we choose to tap with Jaspera Sentinel. So lots of mana there. That's just kind of like one interaction that can go with the Masswood Nexus. The important part, though, about Magda is that we can sacrifice 5 treasures to search our library for an artifact or dragon card and put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle. So the first one we're going to grab, if we can, is going to be Masswood Nexus, which turns everything into a dragon, a dwarf, and a skeleton, because we've got skeletons swarming in here. 5 mana enchantment, each skeleton you control has trample and attacks each combat if able. It gets +X+O, where X is the number of other skeletons you control. So it's pretty absurd. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 black skeleton creature token, and if a creature died, create 2 instead. So yeah, those are skeleton dwarf dragons, I guess. The dragon side of it doesn't particularly matter, but yeah, that's the thing we can do. We can also, once we've gotten kind of the skeleton swarming thing going with the Magda, we can go for an old Gnawbone, and this is probably the only place you'll ever see me play this card. It's a 7 mana 7/7 with flying, bulk mythic. When a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. So if Magda is in and we're generating treasures, we've got our Gnawbone in play, any combat damage that's dealt, bearing in mind with skeletal swarming, we gain trample, we generate treasures. And once we've generated treasures, we've still got that Magda, so we can sacrifice 5 of those to go find whatever we want. We can grab artifacts, which means we can go grab a Seeker's Chariots, we can grab dragons with Masswood Nexus in, that means we can grab any creature from our deck, so we can grab a Toski or something like that. Kalanes, Sentinels, Shambling Ghasts, anything we want, really. It all adds up at the end of the day. And as far as our interaction's concerned, Dragon's Fires can reveal a dragon. So we've got that 7/7 Gnawbone, so it's not kind of rotting in our hand at all times. It does have some uses there. And then we've also got Binding the Old Gods, which destroys an online permanent. And then the Chapter 2 allows us to get a Forest, and that means that we can actually go and grab Highland Forest or Woodland Chasm. Both of these generate another colour on top of the forest that we have to search for. This deck has gone through some changes, and through some changes throughout today's video as well. Originally I built it as more of a mid-range deck that had the combo in it, and then towards the end of the video I really just wanted to show you guys the combo, so I forced the combo to become more readily available, we'll say. So I had 3 Masswood Nexuses in originally, now we have 4. I have more Kalanes and Prosperous Innkeepers for more treasures, so we can try and just get Magda to go. And I think I had a Maskwood Vandal, and I took that out for a Toski. Vandal being a dragon, funnily enough. So you can grab it with Magda without having to have the Nexus in play, and that can be used to destroy artifacts and enchantments. That's kind of the reasoning behind having that card in. Maybe it deserves a spot in here as well. Who knows? But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. It's a bit of a meme deck, but it did surprisingly quite well. That being said, don't know if I would necessarily recommend crafting it, as it is a bit of a meme, and it's quite an expensive one at that. There are a lot of rares in this deck. A lot of rares, and not all of them are good. So yeah, craft at your own risk, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Hopefully you guys enjoy, though. If you do, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And without further ado, let's continue. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Okay, then we're in, and I think this sounds keepable. It's actually my first ever game with the deck, so yeah, this kind of seems keepable. It's got Magda, it can get us to Binding the Old Gods early. We've got Dragon's Fire to help push her through. Skeletal Swarming's kind of the build around card that we're messing around with. Yeah, let's go. Rockfall Vale, pass a turn. I'm trying to think. I don't think we have any doubles in our deck other than old Gnawbone, and I imagine we're using treasures to cast Gnawbone anyway, so I don't think it matters what side this falls on. It's good to be on the play with a hand like this, though, because I think that we might have a little bit of a harder time if it weren't for the fact that we can probably get in with Magda here. No targets for Binding the Old Gods, though, but we've got an Asika's Chariot now, which is nice to keep that curve going, and that's aggression on the way. Can even help us tap our Magda as well, so we can create treasures that way without even having to attack, which is tasty. So we need to get to 5 treasures in field so we can get Masswood Nexus, so all of our creatures are skeletons, if that's what we choose to do anyway. Esper Control, most likely. And our opponent passes. Alright, so we're gonna get in for some damage here. And ask ourselves whether or not we want to play into Jawari's Disruption. I don't think we do. So we'll just pass the turn. See if our opponent wants to foretell. Haunted Ridge. Okay. So that means we can play Skeletal Swarming. Fading Hope's only bounce creature, right? So if I were to play Skeletal Swarming here, I would only have to concern myself with a Sight Coming, or a Divide by Zero. Seems like a thing that I want to cast. Save Binding for a big Planeswalker, or a Leer, or a Xanathar, whatever ends up being the case. I could play Chariot in order to hold up and Dragon's Fire, but I don't know what the target would be for the Dragon's Fire at this stage, so I think I'm just going to play Skeletal Swarming. Make an attempt at having pressure like that. I think it's just going to get divided by 0, though, realistically. Or hard countered if they've got that. Makes sense for them to not foretell a Sight Coming because they can just cast it. Alright, it resolved. And it got his trigger on the stack. Okay. So he gets to fight another day. There's 4 mana. It could be because we're running main deck board wipes, perhaps. There's a foretell. So that could be the Sight Coming that they're not using, but I feel like you'd use it on Skeletal Swarming, especially when it's gonna be the only card that I cast for the turn. Yeah. Putting a lot of thought into every single decision they make here. Sign of a good control player, but dang if it isn't annoying to play against. Okay, another Binding of the Old Gods. That being said, you know, I'm taking time to figure out my own lines of play as well, so I'm not much different. We're going to go to combat. We're going to get swinging. We have to swing in with the Skelemons, but no reason not to anyway. Hit our opponent to 13, and I think we're just playing a Seeker's Chariot. Again, this could be a Sight Coming. which they could have had before, but they would have used it on Skeletal Swarm. It's very weird. We're still playing around Dwarius Disruption. Chariot resolves. It could be a Doom Scar, because that resolved very quickly. The upside is Skeletal Swarming rebuilds. And we have a backup Magda as well. So, yeah, one of the... Ooh, okay. There's no response here for me, is there? I don't think so. They're getting a lot of life. I've got a target to bind, I suppose. For whatever that's worth, which is, in this case, not much. Let's go Skeletal Swarming. They might have Devastating Mastery in their deck. They're gonna need that to keep up with what we're doing here. Without a doubt. Cause I'm hitting hard. I think we'll play Magda. Use her to crew Chariot. Opponent's going to Siphon Insight me. Okay. We can get some good stuff doing this. Can only get Dragon's Fire and Binding really as removal, and we've got 2 of our 3 bindings in our hand. So there's really 1 binding and 3 Dragon's Fires as removal, so they're unlikely to have anything to do here. I guess I also have 1 Masked Vandal as well, but they don't have creatures, so they can't use its ability. Okay. The card has been decided. It shall be that one. Alright, what do you want to do with Magda? So the fun thing is, if Magda resolves and we crew with Chariot and they kill Chariot, I generate the treasure to play my other Chariot anyway. So losing the actual artifact of Chariot's not really a problem for me. Okay, opponent's completely timed out now. Oh no, they get a little bit more time. Hitting them for a lot here. I can add an extra point by copying the skeleton, but I think I want to make Exile Monocle permanent, sure. I think I'd want to make a copy of the treasure token anyway. Alright, goodbye, Chariot. So if I Dragon's Fired my own token, I would actually generate 4. Is there much point in doing that? I don't think so. Your opponent scooped it up anyway. Let's see what that Foretell card was. I feel like it was a Saw It Coming, but maybe it wasn't. It was another Doomscar. Okay. And the game won't tell me what they stole from my side, unfortunately. So they had another Doomscar. But yeah, it's not very good in the face of Skeletal Swarming. Could have, as I mentioned as well, had a Devastating Mastery, which destroys all non-land permanents. That would have certainly put a spanner in the works for my Skeletal Swarming plan, but yeah, if you can't deal with this card, it snowballs quite quickly. Couldn't quite get to the 5 treasures, though. If we'd have got to the 5 treasures, I'd have probably put a Masswood Nexus into play, and then Magda becomes a skeleton that then also gets the abilities of the Skeletal Swarmings. And yeah, that should have done quite a fair bit of damage there. Also, all of them tapping creates treasures, so it's just got a crazy snowball effect, really. So yeah, on to the next one. Alrighty then, opponent goes first. We have a turn 1 Shambling Ghast, and then nothing on turn 2. But we can then start holding up in Dragon's Fires, getting back on curve. Got a Binding the Old Gods. It's not a great hand, but it's a keepable one. Alright, what you want to do there, ZTGTBB? What say you? Forest, but not a snow-covered forest, which means we're not playing mono-green aggro. Got an untapped land for turn 2, but it doesn't let us cast the Dragon's Fire, so it's not really helping us do much. The Binding of the Old Gods, Lair of the Hydra for them. Alright, let's just get all of our colours ready and swing for one. Well, hopefully they're a deck that really cares about their permanents being in play. Bears of Litjara. Okay. So, I might as well hit that, because otherwise it'll be a 4-4. And that's going to fizzle the next chapter. And then if I kill another shapeshifter that they play here, perhaps, it'll kill the chapter 3 off as well. So, really nice. I've got no reason to kill this at all anymore. Unless they have a way to flash in a creature. And flash-wise, I honestly can't think of a card that I'd have to concern myself with. So, let's just save these cards for future use. I would say that this deck is kind of like a party deck, but not having anything to do for 4 mana seems very weird. So I honestly don't really know what we're playing against. I'm sure we're about to find out. Yeah, it is. It is party. Party on hard. Alright, well, do I want to keep my treasure around? I can afford to, so I think I will. Let's go Skeletal Swarming. I'll probably, like, get in with my Shambling Ghast, just so it dies and creates 2 skeletons. It's basically replacing itself, gives me a treasure, which I like. And I get 2 ETBs for my Innkeeper. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the greedy line, but I'll take it. I didn't consider that they might have Concerted Defense here. It's counter non-creature unless they pay 1, plus 1 for each creature in your party. Oh. Oh dear. Oh, we're back. It resolved, I think. Yeah, Concerted Defense there would have stung. Would have been a reason to go Binding instead, though. Alright, they're actually trading the 1-1 off, which is the best case scenario for me, honestly. They probably thought I had a way of killing Squad Commander there, and 'tis not the case. Alright, 2 2-1s with Trample, and 2 life. So if you drew an untapped land, we can double Binding. But I would imagine I want to keep my treasures around, because if we get Magda and get 5 treasures, then we're in a great spot. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. We're back. Take 3. Life total's a resource. Use it correctly. What a strange situation we find ourselves in. So here they could have whatever the spoils thing is. Spoils of Adventure, I think it's called. Something like that. Double Concerted Defense would kind of sting. We can pay for 1. They didn't have 1 before. So I'm going to pay for this one. Do you have the other? Nope. Alright, that's going to give us a little bit of a buff on our Skelemons. Lair can be a 2-2, so we're not getting in with our Innkeeper. Fading Hope, one of our tokens. Alright. And Scry's to the top. Glad they finally fixed the Scry. Creature didn't die, so we only get 2 here instead of 4. But we do get a double buff because skeletal swarming scales and stacks in that way. Archpriest. Puts them to 2 of 4 on their party. Realistically, they could do 4 party here, but yeah, not meant to be. Not meant to be at all. What a weird game. What a weird, weird game. But we won, so no complaints here. On to the next one. Alrighty, opponent goes first. This hand is, yeah, I would say super duper keepable. Turn 1, just bear a sentinel. Turn 2, Magda. Tap Magda, play Shambling Ghast, I think is the line. Opponent with Dwari's Ruins, so there is a Dimir control list that's going around. That's probably what our opponent is playing. Certainly give me that idea. No, it's going to be Smoldering Egg. Okay. Well, Magda's probably dead, but at least Magda can provide a gateway for Shambling Ghast to come down. I think we'll do that. Boop. I guess we could have gone Innkeeper, Shambling Ghast. That might have been better. I didn't actually consider I was generating 2 there. I thought, oh, I'm only getting 1. Rip Magda. Alright. So here we can swing for 2, and if they block, we can kill with Dragon's Fire. And we'll certainly go about doing that. Short of them having Fading Hope. This will be okay. Boop. Here he goes. I think we're just going to go Innkeeper. And then probably just go into Shambling Ghast as well. I'm not too concerned about sweepers, and I think going wide, even though these are little creatures, is going to be beneficial. If they got burned down the house, then they basically ramp us. Prismari Command, make a treasure. Okay. Magda. Nice. Well, empty-handed now. Let's go. So our best draw, I guess, is Maskwood Nexus. That would allow us to generate 4 treasures, and then we get to untap. If we make 5, then we can put Old Gnawbone in play, and all of that nonsense. They're just going to go with the Deluge, probably to try and find a land. Chariot's pretty good. Let's get swinging. Make some treasures. Once at 11. I mean, Prismari Command is going to absolutely wreck Chariot if they've got another one. I'm assuming that last Deluge was a desperate look for land drops. Thundering Rebuke my Magda. Deal. Still has Prismari Command mana open. So they can save themselves a little bit of life if I choose to crew with the Chariot. If I choose not to crew with the Chariot, they kill Chariot and a 2/2 and take 2, 4, 5. It's not presenting lethal next turn. I think I'll probably still just go for it. Forfeiting a little bit of damage if that's the card they have. They've used 1. So the odds are a little less likely. They've got a Dragon's Fire. Okay. Yep, sure. That works too. Gold Span on the way. We'll pass. We'll leave this pathway in hand as an unknown. Yeah, so now they can go Gold Span, swing, have 2 mana for another Dragon's Fire. They're going to have some sort of interaction there, otherwise not holding back a blocker makes no sense. So a 2/2 dies here. It's got to be the case. Yeah. But that attack still puts them in a pretty horrible position. Because now even if they block the 2-2, they're dead to everything else. So they need to have another blocker here. Or some extra removal. Divide by 0. Keeps them alive. As does environmental sciences. Okay, so chance to stabilize here for sure. And you know what happens when blue-red stabilizes? They take a lot of turns. Quite a lot of turns. So, do I swing in and put our opponent to 1? I lose my 2-2, but I play a Sentinel and still have 2 Ghasts, which means I have a pretty substantial threat on board anyway, short of them finding Alrund's Epiphany. Oh yeah, sorry, the life hasn't even taken effect yet. They're getting in, okay. Well, we swing. They go to 1. I play out to the board because I don't think they'll have a burn down the house. And this should be go wide enough for them to not have any good answers. They really need an Alrund's Epiphany, which would give them 3 blockers and an extra swing. But that's still not enough on its own, because I've got the Jaspera Sentinel to block the 1/1s. Command to desperately dig. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if they attack with a gold span, so they could do an extra turn. Dump 2 Deluges. Play their land, and then it's all down to what this last card is. It's going to be a Fading Hope. And that will do it, right? So now they can hit for 4. They can cast their Deluges, and then they're tapped out and can't use the cards they get from it. We tempoed our opponent to death with 1/1s. It's not how I thought this game would go. Yeah, literally the only impactful card we played this entire game was a Seeker's Chariot. And the rest was just 1/1s and 1/2s, and I guess a couple 2/1s, but pretty funny. That's what Durdling looks like, I guess. On to the next one. Okay, on the draw, can we Sentinel into Culhane? Is that even possible with this hand? Not really, but we can do double Sentinel and then Culhane, and then that'll help us get to the Swarmings, probably. I'm still keeping this hand. Magda. Yeah, I think we're going to go Sentinel into Magda, tap Magda. Play Sentinel off the green mana so we keep their treasure. I guess. Luminac Aspirant. Clerics, probably. I don't know how I fare against Clerics. I imagine I lose. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go into Magda. Into Green Source. Create a treasure. Play a Sentinel. I want to get these Swarmings down as early as possible, I guess. Maybe even just binding the Aspirant, if they have no better targets. If they have a Righteous Valkyrie on 3, I definitely want to kill that. If they're a Pyro Heroes variation, that needs to die. They pass the turn. So, Vanishing Verses are probably what they're working with here. So I think I'm just gonna get in with Magda. Well, now that I haven't killed Magda, I can binding the Luminarch Aspirant. She's only punished by protection spells, which that very quick priority pass says to me they don't have. I kind of throttle my mana by doing this. But I gain some back with the Bindings Chapter 2. And I've got the Innkeeper, I've got the Kalain, so... getting back into this game should be relatively simple. Loving the Ixalan throwback lands. I do love Minium's lands, to be honest. Oof. Alright. We knew this day might come. Give me black mana. Veil into Innkeeper. Pass, because we're just going to play Skeletal Swarming, I think. Doesn't die to Vanishing Verse, so it has some value here. I'm starting to believe that they're not actually clerics, though, because Meathook Massacre definitely doesn't belong in that deck. But they also have an aura, so I'm filled with a great amount of confusion. So I'm going to get in. Death Touching, so not going to block. And we're just going to start slamming Skeletal Swarmings and see if we can get there. So Aura, whenever it or another creature dies, you return a cleric with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if I killed Aura, they would get back the Luminarch Aspirant. They've got a cleric class, so they can gain additional life. Hallowed Priest, it's basically Ajani's Pride Mate, and they gain 4 here to trigger them both. But they've dealt their hand. Anything further is what we're dealing with. Alright, so we're going to go Skeletal Swarming. We'll slam down a Kalain, because we can. It's basically free. And a forced attack here, unfortunately, but they don't want to block, because they will generate so many more zombies. Skeletons, sorry. We do gain a life trigger, which is a thing. But so do I. Now I've got 4 7/1s because they blocked. Rather than 3 somethings. So, I wouldn't put that as the best decision they've ever made. So, best draw is now Maskwood Nexus. Because then everything becomes a skeleton. I gotta imagine that's a lot of damage. I would also, I guess, accept another Binding the Old Gods. They've just leveled up to Cleric class level 2, so whenever they gain life, they get to put a counter on a creature they control, so they can buff up the aura by doing that. The Hallowed Priests are going to do all the buffing themselves. They've got to concern themselves now with the backswing, though. I guess also another Skeletal Swarming would be nice. They're basically in forced block territory right now. I'm just going to let them have the 3 there. Kalain's kind of lost her value, but I don't know. She might serve me well in the future. That's infinite mana. That's an 8/8. Alright, Kalain. I'm glad I didn't block with you. Alright, so... well, now I'm attacking with you, I think. Swing with the team. We gain a treasure, I think, for as much damage is dealt to our opponent. So they're going to block 1 with a Hallowed Priest. Taking 21 plus whatever this is, like 24, something like that. No, 23. They're at 3. I generate many treasures. Old Gnawbone. They gain some life. So they have a bit of a backswing for them. I have 25 treasures. Oh, man. Oh, my kingdom for a Magda right now. Honestly, the Magda would be delicious. I have 13/1 Tramplers. And our opponent's dead on board. They need another Meathook Massacre. It's not quite going to do what they want it to do, though, but it will be very effective at killing my skeletons. Okay. Still waiting for that moment where I can pull off the combo, because it's really cool when I do. I might have to just, like, throw a fourth Masswood Nexus in here just to make sure that the combo happens, because it's just not turning up when I need it to. But yeah, old Gnawbone was kind of like a shooter target for Magda, so just getting it out there and showing you what it does and what Magda could do if Gnawbone managed to connect. 25 treasure tokens. It costs 5 for Magda to get a dragon or an artifact out, so we get loads of Seeker's Chariots and Masswood Nexuses and Old Gnawbone if we don't already have him, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty solid. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. I'm determined to get a combo game here, so let's do it. Alrighty, on the draw. This sounds okay. Get turn to Magda. This is also a dwarf, so Magda appreciates that. It's got a snow-covered forest. We're going to go with our Highland Forest. Up against mono-green aggro. I don't know how we fare. Nope, it's not mono-green aggro. It's a deck of unknown origin. Let's then go and... I could keep my black as an unknown. Go maybe just Mass Vandal. I don't feel like this card will do anything. I mean, maybe it will. Maybe they're trying to create dragons so that they can then a Seeker's Chariot them. And in that case, it would probably have a use. But if I went with Magda, they just pass. And at least with Mass Vandal, I get to swing through after I play Magna next turn. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm aiming for the combo here. I want to get Magda to search for a Masswood Nexus. That's the meme dream that we're trying to live here. Is Vandal just dead? Is our opponent going to be that aggressive? Blizzard Brawl? Well, yes. We certainly are. Good to know we have Blizzard Brawl to contend with. Alright, so now the jig is up, we're actually a black deck. We're going to go Jaspera Sentinel, we're going to go Magda. We're going to dream of a Masswood Nexus top deck, because that would be lovely. Toski, oh dear. You can draw a card. Got a forest. Alright. Let's go forest. Kill Berserker, I think. Leave Sentinel back to block the Toski. We can tap Magda on their end step to create the treasure. Ramp out, thin our deck. For the chapter 2. Spare Magda in case they've got the Blizzard Brawl to kill it. I'd let them draw if they did that. Kessig Naturalist, okay. And Tovalar, so it's actually just a weird Wolves deck? Is what you're telling me? Alright, well, let's hope for, I don't know, bit of removal, perhaps, or our combo. Skeletal Swarming is neither of those things, but it's still fine. Let's swarm. Yeah, let's just pass the turn, I guess. Start creating some skeletons. I don't think we've got very long to win the game here, so it's going to be the next 2 or 3 top decks that are really going to decide this one for us. Tovalar draws if a wolf deals combat damage, which I'm going to have to allow, most likely. I guess I could block the Kessig just to trade a Magda since I have a spare. I'm mostly here to try and, you know, pull off the combo. I feel paranoid in that it's not going to let me tap for mana here. So I'm going to full control. And do this. There's just something that came over me where it's like, you are going to break my rule. And I'm going to cry. Alright, so they get to draw 2 here. So Tovalor apparently helps himself draw cards. Seeker's Chariot. It's quite good. Got some Death Touches, so our opponent won't be blocking our 1/1, most likely. Can play Magda again. Play you on black. Play Skeletal Swarming. Probably should hold this Skeletal Swarming until after I swing in, because they might be less likely to block my 1/1 now. Which is a force block, of course. Do they remember it as Death Touch? They certainly do. Alright. 2 1/1s, please. Which are actually 5/1s, by the way. Yeah, please give me Masswood Nexus. Please. And let me keep my Magda. Am I going to be able to let my Magda stay alive here? There's another question. If they chose not to remove it, I can block the Toski with the Jaspera Sentinel. Tap to make mana. That's 3 treasures. It's dead. Never mind. Okay, so crew. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They draw a lot of cards. Then I draw what? That means that I should keep my Sentinel. I'll make this treasure. I don't think the treasure really matters. So we'll just leave the blocker back. Containment Breach, yeah. And this game is over. Just not drawing the cards we need again. Too much of a theme. Very strong recurring theme. I'll take the 7 here to block the Toski to keep my Jaspera Sentinel alive, I suppose. But yeah, I don't really know what we can draw here that's good. Opponent's definitely going to bury us in card advantage. To nobody's surprise. Innkeeper. Yep, that'll do it. Alrighty then, we're in, and on the draw this hand is slow, but I'll keep it. I did make a couple of tweaks to the deck. Tweaks that I think probably make the deck worse, but increase the likelihood that we pull off the combo, which is the sole purpose of this particular deck. If it doesn't do that, I have no reason to play. And, yep, here we go. Alright, we're on to something. I would like to play the Veil first, because that opens up Magda and Innkeeper, and I think both of those are pretty good. Our opponent has a Snarl with a normal island, so not Is It Dragons, because they usually run Frostbite, or do they stop doing that now? I don't know. Either way, definitely not going to open up my Magda to removal, so we're just going to go with the Innkeeper here, and could honestly play the Shambling Gas, because next time if I played my Magda... No, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. I didn't say anything. For some reason I thought this was a dwarf. I was like, I'm going to get my treasure back. Not the case. It's a Mouldering Egg numero 2. And Shatter Skull. Alright, so this is now an untapped land. What am I doing here? I desperately want Nexus to work. For Nexus to work, what do I need to do? And is this the time to even slam Nexus? Should I binding the Smoldering Egg so that I have the ramp later to make up for the treasure I lose? Or I could do Magda's Shambling Gas, but that opens it up to removal and makes me cry. Let's do Chariot. It's the boring line. It's the boring line, but maybe the one that they expect, and they're probably most likely to try and interact with. If they've got, like, Prismari Command, I would hate for them to hit Nexus here, because it's literally my only reason to play this game right now. We're here to combo and nothing more. I would have loved to have had Nexus in for Magda here so that I could turn these cats into cat dwarves. There'll be a lot of treasure in our future there. But not meant to be. Yep, there's Prismari Command. I feel justified in my decision. I'm actually going to do some looting over killing creatures here. Interesting choice for sure. Maybe they're going to discard some Deluges. Dragon's Fire and Divide by Zero. I hate all of those cards. Wish I'd never seen any of them. Alright, well, Nexus is coming down. Although, if they played a Deluge, they flip Smoldering Egg, I probably can't let that happen. Ugh. Yeah, let's get that sorted before they have Counter Magic open. Swing for 3. God, don't you just hate it when you have to play properly? Rather than play the silly lines? I just want to get my Nexus down. Yeah, okay. Made the right decision. So now they get the Deluge flip. And because we went with the Binding of the Old Gods, it means that they can't do anything here. So they only gain the 4 attack. I can then play the other Binding in order to get rid of that without any kind of cast triggers involved. Highland Forest, that makes me cry. Because that is one of our 2 tutor targets for Binding the Old Gods. Good tutor targets, anyway. So let's get rid of Ashmouth. Let's swing for 5. Doing this line as well does have its upsides, because if your opponent taps out, then we've got Nexus into Magda. So we get the treasures from doing that. We've only seen Divide by Zero as a form of stack-based interaction, as well as Prismari Command as well, which they know to be quite good. They're maybe just going to go with a Dragon's Fire here, though, which means no Prismari Command, no Divide by Zero. Less triggers for me, though. I'm here for the treasures. I am a loot goblin. They foretold. Fantastic. Ooh, skeletal swarming as well. Lots of good stuff going on here. So we're going to go Nexus. Going to go Magda. They all get +1/+0 because they're all dwarves. We gain 2 treasures because they're dwarves. And I could play a dwarf. What would that do for me? Would that do anything? It's basically trade a treasure if they've got burn down the house. I'll just play it. Now I have an attack trigger where I can swing with all of them and then get old Gnawbone out, maybe. I can also Skeletal Swarming, which is going to give them all +X/+O. Alright, let the extra turns begin. We'll go from 20 to 0. So that's how that works. Gold spam. Sure. And passes. Very interesting. So, I'm gonna go skeletal swarming here. I think no matter what, that's gonna make my creatures stupidly big. Then they're gonna swing, creating me 4 treasures. And then they're gonna deal lethal amounts of damage, but not before I get my old Gnawbone or Toski, one of the others. I added a Toski in here because I thought it'd be kind of funny as a Magda target after the old Gnawbone came in. So let's think about this. If they weren't dead, then I get my old Gnawbone, then I gain treasures equal to the amount of damage that I deal, which is a lot. It's 20 odd damage at the moment. It's 21 specifically if they don't block. Let's assume they live through that. So I gain 21 treasures. I use 5 of those 21 to get, after I've got the old Gnawbone, I get Toski. Then I get just really anything, to be honest. I just start grabbing a Seeker's Chariots, I think. 3 Seeker's Chariots left in the deck. Something like that. And they're all skeletons. Then I gain a skeleton trigger here. And it's kind of funny. Alright. Well, I did have to manipulate the deck in such a way where it basically forced the shuffler to give me my cards. But, yeah. This kind of shows you what happens when you get the absolute nuts. Which is all I wanted to showcase for you guys today. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing this deck if you want to rank. I have done well with it today, admittedly. Most of my losses seems to be down to mana screwing. We're a 24 land deck with a ton of treasure generation, so it's really just not a thing that should happen very often. So it's not a bad deck. I don't know though. I feel like I've still got a little bit lucky with this one, so it's kind of aggressively expensive for what it does. So it is one that I wouldn't recommend crafting, but it is very fun. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it today. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you all next time. Ta-ta.